Bienvenue, welcome to another live stream. This is the Karen Bashford Show, or as I recently renamed it, the Sloth or Beaver Show, featuring Karen Bashford. Karen Bashford and I have had a relationship with, oh my goodness, it's over a year, and we've been working together, and I've seen the evolution of what she offered. And then suddenly there was this moment of epiphany where she thought, if there's a way I can coalesce this together in a way that people can take advantage of this at home, or even therapists can take advantage of it within their therapeutic practice, then I should do it. And hence the birth of the Sloth or Beaver Toolkit. Today's show is about an aspect that so many people will reconcile in their own lives. Just before we came on in the green room, I and Karen were nattering about specific elements of this within our own lives, and it's so we both know how prevalent it is. It's not a me problem or a problem or anything. It's a problem that people come across all over. Do you seek external validation, i.e. not from within but from without? The people that you love, that you associate with, your peer group, your school group, your university group, your friendship group down the pub, down the youth club, the senior what's it club, or whatever it is, or even if you're part of a walking group or any of that. Do you look for members of that group, most commonly your parents or your parent figures, to make you feel that you're on the right path? And I don't mean just once in a while, Dad, have I done this right? But more like, am I thinking about this correctly? Are these ideas of mine valid? Have I understood the assignment? And so many of us, I mean, Karen, you and I both have had this in our lives. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. My parents were notoriously bad at not giving me the validation I needed as a child.
And that's not because you were particularly objectionable.
Well,
look, I see everything as what leads up to the current character that I see before me, and you're certainly very affable and pleasant and easy to deal with, which I promise you in a client is amazing. But and we haven't always, by the way, audience, just so you know, we haven't always been agreed eye to eye. We've had discussions and even minor disagreements, but we both got an intent to move forward. So that means that, you try and work out a solution to problems. But it's very difficult to do that with a parent or a figure or whatever it is, when you ask them to say validate or something and they don't give it. And that, I think the tendency from that is to make you ask more in a different way, and the less you get it, the more you ask for it. And am I on the right track, Karen?
Definitely. I'll share what I shared earlier on. My mother, Becca, was a brilliant dressmaker, absolutely brilliant dressmaker. And yes, I did attempt to make dresses. And I didn't think I was too bad. I actually made some that looked quite respectable. But interestingly enough, I never ever got praise from my mother for making it. It was always, oh, you're doing that backhanded, or it's, why are you sewing it like that? It's all awkward. And yeah, I'm not a dressmaker, Mother. I'm interested in dressmaking. I'm doing it because it's something that I need to do. It was cheaper to make a dress than it was to go and buy them. And I didn't have a lot of money necessarily to go and buy outfits.
Right.
So, yeah,
right. Which is normal, isn't it? Especially when you perceive that the person you're talking to is better at whatever it is than you are. You want them to say to you, well, actually, that's not quite right. This is how to do it better. And other great work on the rest of it. That's what we want.
Would have been nice.
Well, it means that you feel like you've demonstrated you've been listening and you've been taking in the information. And if you've gone awry in some way, then you just want a bit of direction, a nudge in the right direction, or even if it's about opinions and ideas. I've always thought the world was flat. Well, it isn't, and let me explain why. Well, that's great. But if someone says, don't be stupid, or stands up in front of people, a bunch of people, and says they never did well at school,
it's painful.
And it makes you feel less than.
Yeah. And that's
And
the thing.
I never can understand it when, and this is my point of absolute misunderstanding or consternation, if you really want. If I have to assume that parents want their children to thrive, they are the embodiment of them. They are.
With parents are unwittingly, sometimes they put on their children what they want, not what the children want.
Yeah, but they've got to be thinking the long game. This person is going to grow up and theoretically look after me and my dotage. They're going to be less likely to want to do that if you've treated them like sawdust.
Not necessarily, no, because my parents, bless them, were abusively, neglected me as a child emotionally.
Right.
And yet my parents, bless them, still expected me to give emotionally to them, especially as both of them got older. Now, I was still supposed to give, and yet where was I supposed to have that emotional ability if I hadn't been given it in the first place? So it's often, I think, a fallacy to believe that children gain sometimes from their parents. In actual fact, they sometimes lose out.
Yes. And the bit I hate most out of all that, and I got this from, I think, 2 teachers at my school and from my father, was these people ostensibly there to help you learn, to help you grow as a person, to help you assimilate the knowledge, understand the difference between the chaff and the wheat, so you can just focus on the bits that are relevant. And I can't understand how putting you down or making you feel less than aids that, because it makes you less want to go to them as an oracle of information, and even worse than that, believe that any time spent with them will make you feel a better, more interesting, or more knowledgeable person. So the tendency will be to effectively create distance, create disharmony.
Yeah, but you have to remember, especially for you're on my age group, is that our parents always took the attitude that you only do better if you're criticised.
Yeah, but but hang on, there's ways of criticizing, aren't there?
We only learn that as we get older.
Oh, well, that's true. That's true, actually.
If they've not actually practiced giving praise at all, how can they learn to give praise in any way, shape, or form if they just continue to expect you to improve by criticism?
My best friend at that period was a gentleman called Chris, and we used to spend hours building things for ourselves. Like we built a tree house, and we were salvaging things and buying screws and nails and putting things together. And I'll never forget, we were building a platform about 6 foot off the ground, high up the tree, and its dad came out and said, "Chris and Gareth, that's really good. You built that really sturdily. Have you thought about doing this?" And I was blown away. No one had ever said that to me before. They really hadn't. It was shocking. And then I remember thinking at the time, I don't get this sort of treatment at home. I get a harumph. That's the closest I got. All right. Sloth or Beaver Toolkit is a way to help you understand yourself from within by almost asking yourself questions and fielding the answers, but couching them with a bit of knowledge. And I've asked, and just to talk a bit further, what Sloth or Beaver Toolkit is made up of. It's a board which represents your life journey and a series of packs of cards with questions on them. And the idea is you can use it by yourself, or you can use it in groups. The group size of maximum of 6, I think. So if, let's say, you're there by yourself and you pick a card from the toolkit, there are 6 sets of cards covering different aspects of your life. Now, I've asked Karen to come up with a couple of cards that are relevant to this conversation about validation from without. And are they from the same pack of cards, or are they?
Got 2 from one set and 2 from another set. So okay. I would say here, based on what we're talking about, I set the intention when I was shuffling the cards that I wanted the right questions based on external validation.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do next is Karen's going to read out one of the questions. We'll talk about it, and we'll go through all 4 of those questions, and we'll talk about how they relate, really, and hopefully you guys who are listening, I can see you out there, hopefully earwigging in. If any of these relate to you, please do think about either writing comments or at least taking them into your own life. And if you're interested in the Sloth or Beaver Toolkit, what I'm going to do quickly is do 2 things. One is I'm going to put a banner up down the bottom, which will give you where you can go for it. And by the same token, I'm also going to put up a QR code. There we go, in the corner. So if you're just there on your computer and you want to quickly go and have a look and don't fancy, just click that with your phone and it'll take it there. It works beautifully on a mobile phone, so you should be able to find your way through. Now, first question, if you please, Karen.
Right, based on the fact we're talking about external validation, right. Our external validation generally comes from parents originally.
Yes.
So the question, toddlers love to explore, but often hear, no, don't, and be careful. Were you an exploring go-getter, or were you a meticulous investigator? Did you often get into trouble? Do you remember this time clearly or hardly at all? As children, we role-play what we'd love to be as adults. How different or similar are you to what you wanted to be? When did you want what you wanted to be change? So in other words, if we're encouraged, potentially we can make decisions as a toddler to improve ourselves and to prove ourselves as adults.
All right, start with you first. What did you want to? What when you were? Do you remember first of all? Do you remember your toddler years?
Very, very little. Very, very little of my toddler years, simply because of the trauma of what I went through. I remember very little. I know at one point I still do adore animals, and I used to think it'd be nice to be a vet. But realistically, because of the lack of encouragement, I never managed to settle into doing the work that was needed. But also, I'm the kind of person, as a Gemini, I'm a communicator.
Right.
So being a vet wouldn't necessarily have worked, because I can talk to animals, but it's not
talk to the animals, walk with the animal.
It's not quite the same.
No, absolutely not. All right, cool. So how do you think that affected who you are now?
Massively, because I just didn't have the belief in myself to do what I wanted basically to do, which required a lot of studying, obviously, to be able to be a vet, or even anything to do with animals. You have to have that knowledge. So without that validation from my parents that yes, I could do it, or even the feeling that I was loved,
Right.
it was going to have a huge impact on me. And I went through most of my adult life believing that I wasn't good enough, that whatever I wanted to do, it was never going to happen because there was always a big question mark as to who I was. I just didn't believe in myself. And that happens so often with women, especially because we do not get that confirmation that we're seeking. And we're often put down because we are seen, unfortunately, still as citizens that haven't got value.
I was a naughty child. I wanted to be an engineer, like my father and his father before him. And my epiphany came at 13 when I met a guy. This was in the early days of software. I met a guy who was writing software for Longmans, and he introduced me to someone there, and I started writing. And I suddenly thought, I can do stuff, and people are interested in it. Because until then, I'd been told that I was never going to be an engineer because I wasn't meticulous enough, and why can't I just follow the rules rather than coming up with things that were outside the rules? Or why did I come up with new ideas when you could just stick with the old ones? Which was my father's attitude and my mother's attitude. So I remember feeling very less than, that I was never going to amount to anything, that I was the black sheep of the family and the house failure. Until that moment when I didn't expect the external validation, but I certainly got it. I got a couple of letters and an award from Longmans for coming out. I wrote geography simulations, so you could get your BBC Micro and open up one of their books, turn to page such, and type in the ideas, and it would say, "This is how well the village would fare after a number of weeks or months." And I remember that the one time when I got a letter from them saying how excellent it was and would I like to get paid for it, it changed everything at that point, because I realized I didn't have to. Although I have to say, I would like to say it meant I didn't go back to my father for validation, but I remember times, even in my early 40s, where I'd be saying something, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, Dad, what do you think? Just hoping he would say, oh, that's really well done. I'm so proud of you. And I never got it.
Well, ironically,
yeah,
I actually received 2 awards for my work. My mother was still alive when I got the first award, but she just didn't understand what I did, so didn't understand what the award meant. And yet, also, strangely enough, it was nice to have the reward, but it didn't validate for me in the way that as a child I would have loved to have heard that validation.
I mean, I was 13 when I was writing the software for Longmans, and it was life-changing, because up until then I thought I was Billy No Mates, I had no prospects, and my parents were just, the most common thing I would find them doing was be shaking their head, looking down at me, effectively, and for an external force to come along and say, actually, you're pretty clever.
Yeah, but as I said, it didn't give the same feeling. It was nice to receive, and I'm proud of having achieved those awards. But at the same time, I no longer sought that external validation because I knew I was good enough. And isn't that sad, really, when you think about it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And that thing I told you about, where it's the less you get it, the more you want it. And it can really dampen your own ardor, your own expectations of yourself. Come on, let's do another couple of cards.
Okay, well, that was from the business set. I will do another one from the business set. Congratulations on keeping hope. Hope can mean trust in your abilities, trust in your relationship, or trust in the universe to provide for your needs. As long as you identify your needs and dare to request, work and dream for them, trust that the universe will reward you and all your efforts. What do you want for your business? What do you need for your business? How can you ask for these? So if you're seeking validation of your business and you're on the right path for your business, you need to validate yourself, but you also need that external validation. But to get that external validation, you need to believe in yourself.
Well, yes, otherwise you're onto a non-starter, aren't you? It's like Sloth or Beaver. You had a germ of an idea which you expanded out, and then once you got to something where you'd actually had the questions in place, were working on the design for the board and all the rest of it, you found people to use it or to trial it out, and you got the feedback from that reassured you that you were in the right direction. And now you've got all this time later and all this effort later, he says, you've got a full toolkit in place, and people are constantly saying to you how brilliant it is. So you know that it's appealing and helping a bunch of the people. I'm a user. I'm a person who used it, and it really helps. Especially actually if you have a half-baked question, I just go hunting through the cards looking for one that sort of is on that track, and then I look at that. Sometimes that can give you some really good clarity, because it's the way in which you preface each of the questions that helps actually, because it sets the tone. So sorry, I didn't mean to branch off into that. So okay, Lo, you answer first. Come on. In your own life's experience.
Hope is something we all need to be able to survive. If we don't have hope, we're not likely to survive, because we just give up on ourselves. However, it's your approach to how you want to live that will make the difference. So based on what the questions were, what I wanted in my business was to come up with something that I could leave a legacy for.
Right.
And that's what Beaver is all about, is leaving a legacy to enable people who can't necessarily afford coaching, or who perhaps aren't willing to go that length yet. Drop or Beaver's questions will enable you to start to get to know yourself.
So yeah, I quickly want to say the Sloth or Beaver starter toolkit, where you get the board and you get one set of cards, that's currently £75. It's an ideal gift for families who are open but also wanting to explore, because it really is very good at that. It's not a game, but it is something that can create unity and can pull people together and help you answer questions that have perhaps been running around your mind for years. All right, go on, give me one more. Go on, give me one more. Which kit is this from now?
This is from relationships. And relationships is also about you, obviously. Everyone's childhood is unique, even within a family. It isn't always easy for family members to get along. Your childhood will leave lasting impressions of memories, both good and bad, which shape your beliefs and emotional responses to people and events. It is these people and early experiences that influence your relationships with others. What are your triggers? And how has your childhood affected your interactions with others?
Okay, I'm going to go first. The triggers. One of the biggest triggers for me was one word, which was stupid.
Oh, yeah, nasty.
Well, a lot of people throw out stupid like it's nothing. Whereas
Go
to
now.
me, it's like it's most people take it to the equivalence of saying silly,
Except it's
which
even deeper than that, more painful.
oh well, yeah, for me particularly, because I always felt like that I was less than, and calling me stupid meant, well, why are you bothering? Because you're stupid. And oh no, it would make me fly into a temper. Whereas I see it now that if anybody says anything to that anyone, I realize it's probably from a lack of knowledge or lack of experience. And at that point, that provides me with two choices. I either can educate them or I can smile and think, well, there you go. And I choose either way, depending on how receptive they are. So if they're receptive, I say, well, I'm not stupid. I may be uninformed. So please inform me so I can make better decisions. Or if I'm the lady where I go, that's fine. That's your opinion, and we've all got them. And like bottoms, they all smell. But the truth of the matter is, I would never be able to do that when I was younger. The 16-year-old person, if they'd said somebody I was stupid, I would fly into a proper temper.
Well, that's
absolutely.
Because unfortunately, the first time you hear something, it becomes an emotional reaction. And if you hear it often enough, that emotional reaction is built upon. So yeah, you get to that point. If you just hear the word, you're just going to react. So
it was my father's mother that first said it to me. I remember I didn't know what it meant. So I asked, I think I asked my mother, and she said, oh, it means that you're just not capable and you never will be. And that hurt.
Let's just reinforce it then. And that's what happens. It's reinforced by other people.
But let me tell you, my mother was an educational psychologist. If anyone should have known better, it should have been her.
Precisely. We all have habits that don't serve others as much as it doesn't serve ourselves.
Right. So, okay, right back at you. What were your triggers?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That's a good one, because I don't remember much of my childhood, simply because it was just too painful that basically it was shut away. And then when I went through my nervous breakdown, it was a case of, okay, I don't need to review that, so we can just let it go. But one of the things that used to really, really bug me as an adult was in my relationship with my partner was the comment like, you can't be trusted. Excuse me.
That's really horrible.
Okay, I can't.
That's really horrible.
Yeah, and yet trust for me is one of the biggest things that I always had.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have the trust, there was no point in me doing something. So yeah, but that was my biggest trigger as an adult, was you can't be trusted.
God, that's horrible, though. That really is horrible. But I mean, look, they're all horrible, frankly. And not only the way it manifests in your head is you start doubting yourself, don't you?
And yet I unwittingly trusted myself without even knowing it, because I kept taking that step forward, even though I had massive issues around relationships, as you know all about. But also because at the end of the day, trust is something that once broken is very, very hard to rebuild.
Almost impossible. There's always a tiny little bit of a question left, isn't there? Because once you lose it, like virginity, gone. No. All right, I think we need to bring this to a close. But before I do so, I just want, would you explain to me why you chose to have 6 different packs? Why you just didn't have the 1 pack, and why are there 6 packs?
Because at the end of the day, everything in life connects However, if you just focus on one area, you don't deal with the issues that come from other areas. So if you have the cards for life, you don't necessarily inquire that deeply into money mindset.
No.
So you need life to look at life as a whole, but you also need the money mindset, because your money mindset has an impact on your life. But unless I did thousands of questions for life, you wouldn't get the money mindset necessarily the same way as you need it to. So they're individuals, there's health, there's intimate relationships, because they're different to relationships, obviously. You've got business, you've got money mindset, and you have life. So, yeah.
And when you buy the Slot of Beaver toolkit, you get one of those, and you can choose which one you want, can't you?
Choose which one you want, yeah. So whatever's most important to you.
And why the relationship with the chakras?
Because basically every organ in your body is connected. So if you're looking at health, every part of your body is connected to your heart. Health is to do with your heart and how you love yourself.
Okay.
And if you don't love yourself, your health is not going to be 100%, and it will deteriorate the less you love yourself. So hence, heart is green because it's health.
And when she says it's green, each group of cards comes in a bag, which is can you show us one?
Yeah.
There we go. You see, and the great thing is they're organza, so you can actually see the contents are in there, so you know what you're looking at. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for that, Karen. It's every week we talk about different aspects of the Slothful Beaver Toolkit and how it relates to elements of your life, and also how to help you unlock the barriers that prevent you from finding the solutions you're looking for from within. I think, dare I say it, Karen, you specialize in not really providing very much. What you're doing is getting people to look inside themselves. And that also allows me to lead straight on to briefly talking about Karen's original purpose, I guess, which is about acting as an empowerment mentor, specifically to women of a certain age. But really, she acts as a catalyst, so you can find the solution in yourself.
Yeah, I don't find the solutions, I just help you find it.
Okay, so here is a ticker there that talks about KarenBashford.com, and I would absolutely recommend that you spend at least a bit of time talking with her, irrelevant to whether or not you're going to take her up on her service or not. I would say at least that will give you an insight into how she can help you be more you. Thank you so much, Karen. And I want to thank all of you from watching. Keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and please try and look after your mental and emotional health. Bye-bye now.
Bye.